The crack of the rifle echoed across the valley one final time before Owen Lattimer handed it to the orc trader, his calloused fingers releasing the weapon that had kept him alive through 6 years of frontier war and 3 more of uncertain peace. The trading post sat at the edge of civilization, where the human settlements gave way to the disputed territories. A ramshackle building of timber and stone that served as neutral ground for those brave or desperate enough to conduct business across the species divide. Owen had ridden for 2 days to reach this place, his horse thin from a hard winter, his own belly not much better. The farmstead he had claimed after mustering out of the border militia was fertile enough, but working it alone had proven nearly impossible. He needed help. He needed someone strong enough to help clear the remaining forest, to plow the rocky northern field, to repair the barn roof before another winter came. He could not afford hired hands. He had nothing left to trade except the rifle and his grandfather's pocket watch, and he would be damned before he parted with the watch. "This is good weapon," the orc trader said, his voice like gravel sliding down a slope. He examined the rifle with knowing eyes, checking the action, the barrel, the stock. "Worth 3 horses or 10 barrels grain or—" "I want a bride," Owen said, the words falling from his mouth like stones into still water. The trading post went silent. 2 human trappers by the fire turned to stare. A half-orc woman counting copper coins at a corner table stopped mid-count. Even the wind outside seemed to pause, the trader's yellow eyes fixed on Owen with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "You understand what you ask?" "I need help on my farm. I need someone strong and willing to work. I need—" Owen's voice dropped. "I need someone who will not leave when times get hard, a wife, a partner." The trader set the rifle down carefully on the scarred wooden counter between them. "You are serious, dead serious. You know what orcs are to your kind, what your kind are to orcs." "I know what the war was," Owen said quietly. "I fought in it, I killed in it, but the war is over and I am tired of being alone." The trader studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Wait here." He disappeared through a curtain into the back rooms of the trading post. Owen stood at the counter, feeling the weight of hostile stares on his back. One of the trappers spat into the fire. The other muttered something about orc lover that was meant to be heard. Owen ignored them. He had not survived skirmishes in the Thornwood and the siege of Black Ridge Fort by letting words wound him. When the trader returned, a young orc woman followed him. She wore simple traveling clothes, leather trousers, and a worn tunic that had seen better days. Her skin was the deep green of pine needles, her black hair braided tightly against her skull. The tusks that curved up from her lower jaw were small and neatly filed, and her amber eyes held a wariness that Owen recognized from his own reflection. "This is Khaara," the trader said. "She has no clan. She came here seeking work, but there is no work for her kind in human lands. She is strong, healthy, and skilled in many tasks." Khaara's gaze met Owen's, and he saw pride there and defiance, but also something deeper. Desperation, perhaps, or resignation. "Can you speak for yourself?" Owen asked her directly, her eyes flashed. "I can speak fine. Question is whether you can listen. Fair enough." Owen leaned against the counter, suddenly aware of how absurd this situation was. He was proposing marriage to a complete stranger, someone of a species he had been trained to kill, in a trading post that smelled of smoke and old blood. "I have a farmstead 2 days south of here. Good land, but it is too much for one person. I need help working it. I need a partner." "You need a slave," Khaara said flatly. "No, I need a wife. There is a difference." "Is there, among your kind?" Owen felt heat rise to his face. "Among my kind, marriage is supposed to be a partnership. Supposed to be, does not always work that way, I will grant you." But that is what I am offering. Equal share in the work, equal share in the harvest, equal share in whatever life we can build. Why? Khaara's arms crossed over her chest. Why would a human offer this to an orc? Because I am tired of prejudice and war and hatred, Owen said, surprised by the vehemence in his own voice. Because I think there has to be a better way than what we have been doing, and because, practically speaking, you are my best option. I cannot afford hired men, and no human woman would come to a poor farmstead in the middle of nowhere with a man she does not know. But an orc has no choice. There was anger in her voice now. You have a choice, Owen said. You can say no. You can walk away right now, and I will not stop you. But I am guessing you are here because your options are limited too. The silence that followed was heavy. Khaara's jaw worked, her tusks catching the lamplight. Finally, she looked at the trader. This is legitimate. You witness this. I witness it, the trader said. By the old customs of the borderlands, a trade witnessed here is binding. But Khaara, you do not have to. I accept, she said, turning back to Owen. I accept your proposal, human. Owen, he said. My name is Owen Lattimer. Owen Lattimer, she repeated, as if testing the weight of the name. Very well. I am Khaara, no clan, no family. I accept. The trader looked between them, his expression unreadable, then nodded. Then it is done. The rifle is my fee for witnessing and arranging. You are bound by the old laws. Owen felt something shift in his chest, a curious mixture of relief and terror. He had done it. He had traded his only real possession of value for an orc bride. His father would have been horrified. His mother would have wept. His former commanding officer would have had him flogged. But none of them were here. None of them had to live his life. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small iron key, the metal dark with age. This is the key to my house, he said, holding it out to Khaara. It is yours now. What is mine is yours. Khaara stared at the key as if it were a snake that might bite her. You give me the key, just like that, just like that. You are my wife now, are you not? You should have a key to your own house. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took the key from his palm. Her fingers were warm, the skin rough from hard work. For a moment their hands touched, and Owen felt a jolt run through him that had nothing to do with fear. We should leave soon, he said, clearing his throat. The way is long, and I want to reach the halfway point before dark. Khaara nodded. She had no belongings to gather, he realized. Whatever life she had led before had been stripped away, leaving her with only the clothes on her back and whatever strength resided in her limbs. They left the trading post together, emerging into the cold sunlight of early spring. Owen's horse waited at the hitching post, and next to it was a large gray mare that the trader let out. For her, the trader said. Part of the arrangement. Owen nodded his thanks, then mounted his own horse. Khaara swung into her saddle with easy grace, moving like someone who had spent plenty of time on horseback. That was good. That would make the journey easier. They rode in silence for the first hour, following the rutted road south toward the frontier settlements. The land here was still wild, forests of pine and oak broken by clearings where ambitious settlers had tried and often failed to carve out farms. The war had swept through these territories 3 times, and the scars still showed. Burned-out homesteads stood like rotted teeth among the new growth. Crosses marked mass graves at crossroads. Did you fight? Khaara asked suddenly. Owen glanced at her. She rode with straight posture, eyes scanning the forest on either side. Yes, 6 years with the border militia. You? I was too young when the war ended, but I lost family to it. My father. 2 brothers, an uncle. I am sorry. She looked at him sharply. You might have killed them yourself. I might have, Owen agreed. I killed many orcs, some in battle, some in raids. I followed orders and did what I was told was necessary. And yes, I am sorry for it now. Sorry for all of it. Why? Because I have had 3 years to think about it, Owen said. 3 years alone on a farmstead with nothing but my thoughts and my regrets. 3 years to realize that most of those orcs I killed were probably just like me, just following orders. Just trying to survive. Just wanting to go home. Khaara was quiet for a time, her expression unreadable. Most humans do not think like that. Most humans did not spend their first winter alone in a half-built cabin, wondering if they would die of cold or hunger or simple loneliness. Is that what you are? Lonely? Owen considered lying, then decided against it. Yes, desperately lonely. And you think an orc wife will fix that? I think another person might, Owen said. Whether they are orc or human or anything else. I think having someone to talk to work beside, to share meals with. Yes, I think that might help. They rode on. The sun climbed higher, warming the air enough that Owen could shed his heavy coat. Birds sang in the trees and new leaves were just beginning to bud. Spring was coming, and with it the crucial planting season. He was already behind schedule, would be lucky to get half his field sown at this rate. What do you know about farming? He asked. Enough, Khaara said. Orcs are not all raiders and warriors, whatever your people think. My clan grew barley and root vegetables. I know about plowing and planting and harvest. Good. That is very good. They stopped at midday to rest the horses and eat. Owen shared his travel rations, hard bread and dried meat and a small wedge of cheese. Khaara ate without comment, though he noticed she was very hungry, eating quickly and efficiently. When did you last have a proper meal? He asked. 4 days ago. Maybe 5. Owen felt a pang of guilt. There will be food at the farm, not fancy food, but enough. I have chickens for eggs, a milk cow, a good root cellar. I am not expecting fancy, Khaara said. They resumed riding, and as the afternoon wore on, Owen found himself stealing glances at his new wife. She was handsome in a way he had never considered before, her features strong and well-proportioned. The green of her skin reminded him of summer forests, and her movements had a fluid grace that spoke of natural athleticism. She caught him looking once and raised an eyebrow, and he quickly looked away, feeling heat in his cheeks. You have never been with an orc before, she said. It was not a question. No, never socially, I mean, only in battle. I have never been with a human, Khaara said. My clan would have cast me out for even speaking to one peacefully. They did cast me out, actually, when I suggested maybe the war should end. What happened? My mother told me to leave and never return, said I had dishonored my father's memory, so I left. She shrugged, but Owen could see the pain beneath the gesture. That was 8 months ago. I have been wandering since then, looking for work for a place. No orc clan will take me, and humans will not hire me. I am sorry, Owen said again. Stop apologizing. You did not cast me out. No, but my people created a world where you had nowhere to go. Khaara looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. You are a strange man, Owen Lattimer. I have been told that before. They reached the halfway point just as dusk was falling. A small clearing with a stone-ringed fire pit that marked a common resting spot for travelers. Owen set about building a fire while Khaara tended to the horses, and he found himself impressed by how efficiently she worked, how she seemed to know exactly what needed doing without being told. When the fire was burning well, he prepared a simple meal of porridge and tea. They ate sitting on opposite sides of the fire, and Owen became acutely aware that this was his wedding night, not that he expected anything to happen. This was a marriage of convenience, a transaction. But still, the awareness was there, making everything feel strange and weighted. There are 2 bedrooms in the house, he said into the silence. You will have your own space, your own privacy. I am not expecting. That is, this arrangement does not require. He fumbled for words, and Khaara actually smiled, her tusks catching the firelight. You are saying you will not force yourself on me. God, no, never. Good, because I would gut you if you tried. Owen believed her, understood. But Owen, she looked at him across the flames. Thank you for saying it clearly. Many men would not. They slept on opposite sides of the fire, wrapped in their bedrolls, and Owen found himself lying awake for a long time, listening to the sounds of the forest and the soft breathing of the orc woman who was now his wife. He had done something irrevocable today. There was no going back, no undoing this choice. He could only move forward and hope it was the right decision. Morning came cold and bright, and they broke camp quickly, eager to complete the journey. The road deteriorated as they traveled south, becoming little more than a track through the wilderness. They passed one other farmstead around midday, and Owen saw the farmer stop his work to stare as they rode by. The man's expression was one of shock and disgust, and Owen knew that word would spread. The veteran Owen Lattimer had taken an orc wife. Let them talk. He was past caring what his neighbors thought. They reached his farmstead in the late afternoon, the house appearing around a bend in the track like a promise. It was not much to look at. A single-story cabin of rough-hewn logs with a stone chimney and a shingled roof. The barn stood nearby, listing slightly to one side, and beyond that were the fields, some already plowed from his work before leaving, others still wild. "This is home," Owen said, dismounting. Khaara slid from her horse and stood looking at the property. Her expression was carefully neutral. "It is isolated." "Yes, nearest neighbor is the Hardings 3 miles east. Town is 8 miles north. Good. I do not imagine I will be welcome in town." Owen could not argue with that. He led the horses to the barn, showing Khaara where the feed was kept, where the tack went. His milk cow, Bess, lowed at their entrance, and the chickens scratched and muttered in their coop. "I will introduce you properly to the animals tomorrow," Owen said. "For now, let me show you the house." The front door opened easily. Owen stepped inside, and after a moment's hesitation, Khaara followed. The main room served as kitchen, dining area, and sitting room all in one. A large stone fireplace dominated one wall, and simple furniture filled the space. Shelves held dishes and supplies. Everything was clean but sparse, the home of a man living alone. "That door leads to my bedroom," Owen said, pointing. "This one here leads to the second bedroom. It was supposed to be for children, but I have been using it for storage. I cleared it out before I left, though. Put in a proper bed, a chest for your things." He opened the door, showing her a small room with a narrow bed, a wooden chest, and a single window that looked out toward the forest. It was not much, but it was private and clean. Khaara stepped inside, her hand instinctively going to the key in her pocket. "This is mine. It is yours." She turned to look at him, and her amber eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "I have not had a room of my own since I left my clan." "Well, you have one now," Owen said softly. "Make it however you want it. I will not intrude." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and Owen quietly closed the door, giving her privacy. He went to the fireplace and built up the fire, then started preparing dinner. He had venison from a deer he had taken before leaving, and he made a stew with root vegetables from the cellar, adding herbs from his small garden. The familiar routine of cooking soothed his nerves, giving him something to focus on besides the strange new reality of his life. Khaara emerged from her room as the stew was finishing. She had washed her face, he noticed, and rebraided her hair. "Can I help? You can set the table if you like. Bowls are on that shelf." They worked together in companionable silence, and when the meal was ready they sat across from each other at the wooden table. Owen said a brief grace, more from habit than conviction, and then they ate. "This is good," Khaara said after the first few bites. "You cook well." "Had to learn. Could not afford to waste food burning it." "I can cook too. We can share the task." "I would like that." After dinner, they cleaned up together, and Owen found himself acutely aware of her presence in the small house. She moved with purpose, competent and quick, and she did not shy away from hard work. That was good. That would make this partnership work. "Tomorrow we start planting," Owen said. "I am behind schedule already, and every day matters. The work will be hard." "I am not afraid of hard work," Khaara said. "I did not think you were." They stood there in the kitchen, the fire crackling in the hearth, and for a moment neither of them knew what to say. This was their first night in the house together, and the awareness of it hung between them like smoke. "I should sleep," Khaara said finally. "Tomorrow will be long." "Yes. Good night, Khaara." "Good night, Owen." She retreated to her room, and Owen sat by the fire for a while longer, trying to process everything that had happened. 2 days ago he had been alone, desperate, running out of options. Now he was married to an orc woman he barely knew, committed to making a life together. It was insane. It might also be the best decision he had ever made. The next morning arrived with the crowing of his rooster, and Owen rose before dawn to start the fire and prepare breakfast. He was mixing batter for johnnycakes when Khaara emerged from her room, already dressed for work. "You are up early," he said. "So are you. What needs doing first?" Over breakfast, Owen outlined his plan. The northern field needed to be plowed and planted with wheat. The southern field he would put into corn and beans. The garden needed expanding if they were going to feed 2 people through the winter. "Show me how you want the plowing done," Khaara said. They went out to the barn together, and Owen hitched up his ox to the plow. He demonstrated the technique, showing Khaara how to keep the furrows straight, how to work with the ox's strength rather than against it. She watched carefully, then took the handles. "Like this?" "Yes, exactly like that. You learn fast." She smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. "I am not just a strong back, Owen Lattimer. I have a brain too." I never doubted it. They worked through the morning, taking turns with the plow. The work was brutal, the kind that left your muscles screaming and your hands blistered, but Khaara never complained. She matched Owen furrow for furrow, and by midday they had accomplished more than he had managed in the previous week working alone. They broke for lunch, eating bread and cheese under the shade of a large oak tree at the field's edge. Khaara wiped sweat from her brow and looked out over their morning's work with satisfaction. "We make a good team," she said. "We do," Owen agreed. Over the following days they fell into a rhythm. Up before dawn, work through the morning, break for lunch, work through the afternoon, dinner, evening chores, sleep. It was a simple life, but there was something deeply satisfying about it. The fields were being planted. The barn was getting repaired. The garden was expanding. And slowly, carefully, they were learning each other. Owen discovered that Khaara had a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard and made him laugh. She discovered that Owen sang while he worked, old ballads and work songs that his mother had taught him. She learned that he was meticulous about maintaining his tools. He learned that she could not stand waste, would find a use for every scrap and remnant. 2 weeks after their arrival, Owen's neighbor, Marcus Harding, rode over unannounced. Owen was in the barn when he heard the hoofbeats, and he emerged to find Harding staring at Khaara, who was working in the garden. "Owen," Harding said, his voice tight, "I heard rumors. Tell me they are not true. Depends on the rumors. That you brought an orc here. That you are living with her." "She is my wife," Owen said calmly, "and I would appreciate it if you spoke to her with respect." Harding's face went red. Your wife. Have you lost your mind? That is an orc, Owen, an orc. Your father would be ashamed. My father is dead, Owen said, his voice hardening. And he does not get a say in how I live my life. The community does, though. We have standards. We cannot have orcs living among us, breeding with us, Marcus. Owen stepped forward, and something in his stance made Harding back his horse up. You need to leave. Now. And you need to understand that Khaara is not going anywhere. This is her home. If you have a problem with that, stay away from my property. The others will hear about this. I expect they already have. Goodbye, Marcus. Harding rode off, his back rigid with anger, and Owen stood watching until he disappeared around the bend. When he turned, he found Khaara standing nearby, a hoe still in her hands. I am sorry, she said. I am causing you problems. You are not causing anything. Their prejudice is their problem, not yours. He called me a thing, not even a person. Owen saw the hurt in her eyes, quickly masked, and felt anger surge through him. He is a small-minded fool. You are worth 10 of him, Khaara. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Thank you for defending me. Always, Owen said, and meant it. But Harding's visit was only the beginning. Over the next week, it became clear that Owen had been effectively ostracized by his neighbors. No one came to visit. When he went to town for supplies, people turned away from him, their conversations stopping when he approached. The shopkeeper served him with tight lips and cold eyes. Owen bought what he needed and left without comment, but the isolation stung. He had never been particularly social, but this was different. This was active rejection, the entire community turning their backs on him. When he returned home and told Khaara what had happened, she listened with a grave expression. You could send me away, she said quietly. Say it was a mistake. Return to your old life. No, Owen said firmly. Absolutely not. Why? Why are you doing this, Owen? Sacrificing everything for someone you barely know? Owen set down the supplies he had been unpacking and turned to face her fully. Because it is the right thing to do. Because I am tired of a world that divides people into us and them, good and bad, based on nothing but the color of their skin or the shape of their ears. Because in 2 weeks, you have become more of a partner to me than anyone has in my entire life. And because I care what happens to you. Khaara stared at him, her amber eyes wide. You care? Yes, I care. Is that so hard to believe from a human? Yes. Well, believe it, Owen said. You are stuck with me, Khaara, for better or worse. Something shifted between them in that moment, some barrier crumbling. Khaara stepped forward and, very tentatively, placed her hand on his arm. It was the first time she had voluntarily touched him since that moment in the trading post. Thank you, she said softly. Owen covered her hand with his own, marveling at the warmth of her skin. You are welcome. Spring progressed into summer, and the farm flourished. The wheat was growing tall and green in the northern field. The corn was knee-high in the southern field. The garden was producing more vegetables than they could eat. So Owen showed Khaara how to preserve them for winter, pickling and drying and storing. They worked side by side every day, and the partnership that had started as a transaction of necessity was becoming something deeper. Owen found himself watching for Khaara's smile, listening for her laugh. He noticed small things, like how she always checked on the chickens last thing at night, how she hummed while she cooked, how she would sometimes stand at the forest edge at dusk, just watching the trees as if remembering something. One evening, as they sat on the porch after dinner watching fireflies dance in the growing darkness, Khaara spoke suddenly. I was supposed to marry within my clan, she said. There was a warrior, Grak, strong, good fighter, good hunter. My mother had arranged it. Owen felt something twist in his chest. Jealousy? What happened? I did not love him. And when I started speaking against the war, he refused to stand by me, called me a coward and a traitor. She paused. I have not thought about him in months. Strange. Do you regret leaving? I regret that I had to leave. I regret that my people could not see past their hate. She looked at him. But I do not regret where I ended up. Owen's breath caught. No. No, this life, this farm, this partnership. It is hard, but it is honest, and you are. She trailed off, seeming to struggle for words. You are a good man, Owen Lattimer. I am trying to be, Owen said. Some days I succeed better than others. They sat in silence for a while, and then Khaara did something that surprised him. She shifted closer on the bench, until their shoulders were touching. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental. Owen carefully, slowly, put his arm around her shoulders. She tensed for a moment, then relaxed against him, her head coming to rest on his shoulder. They stayed like that until full dark, saying nothing, just being together. Summer brought its own challenges. A drought struck in July, and they spent hours hauling water from the creek to save the crops. A fox got into the chicken coop and killed 3 hens before Owen could shoot it. The milk cow went dry for a week, and they had to ration their supplies carefully. But they faced each challenge together, and somehow that made everything bearable. More than bearable. Owen found himself happier than he had been in years, perhaps ever. The work was hard, but it had purpose. The isolation was real, but it did not feel like loneliness anymore, and he was falling in love with his wife. He did not know when exactly it had happened. Maybe it was the morning he woke to find her already up, preparing his favorite breakfast as a surprise. Maybe it was the day she laughed so hard at one of his terrible jokes that she snorted, then laughed even harder at herself. Maybe it was the evening she fell asleep by the fire and he carried her to her bed, marveling at how right she felt in his arms. Whenever it had started, by late summer he knew it was true. He loved Khaara, loved her strength and her humor and her kindness, loved the way she attacked every task with determination, loved the little wrinkle that appeared between her brows when she was concentrating, loved her. But he had no idea if she felt the same way, and he was terrified to ask. August brought the harvest, and they worked from dawn until long after dark, cutting wheat and bundling it, picking corn and husking it, digging potatoes and storing them in the cellar. It was exhausting work, but when it was done, Owen looked at the full barn and the stocked cellar with deep satisfaction. We did it, he said, standing with Khaara in the barn doorway as sunset painted the sky gold and crimson. We actually did it. This will see us through winter with plenty to spare. We make a good team, Khaara said, echoing her words from that first day of plowing. The best team, Owen agreed. He turned to her and found her already looking at him, her amber eyes reflecting the sunset colors. His heart hammered in his chest. Khaara, I need to tell you something. What is it? I know this marriage started as a transaction, a trade, an arrangement of convenience, but it has become something more for me. You have become more. He took a deep breath. I love you. I am in love with you. And if you do not feel the same way, that is all right. I will not press you, but I needed you to know. Khaara's eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. For a long moment she said nothing, and Owen felt his heart sinking, certain he had ruined everything. Then she smiled, a brilliant smile that showed her small tusks. You foolish, wonderful man, I have been in love with you since you handed me that key. You have? Yes. You gave me a key to your house, your home, before you even knew me. You trusted me when no one else would. You saw me as a person, not a monster. How could I not fall in love with you? Owen laughed, a sound of pure joy, and pulled her into his arms. She came willingly, her strong arms wrapping around him, and when he kissed her it felt like coming home. They stood there in the barn doorway, holding each other as the sun sank below the horizon, and the stars began to emerge. Everything felt right in a way Owen had never experienced before. This was what he had been searching for without knowing it. Not just a partner for the farm, but a partner for life. "We should go inside," Khaara murmured against his shoulder. "It is getting cold. In a minute, I want to remember this moment." She pulled back enough to look at him, her hand coming up to cup his cheek. "We will have many moments to remember, Owen. We have all the time in the world." That night, Khaara did not go to her own bedroom. She came to Owen's and they lay together in his bed, talking until late into the night. They talked about their pasts, their dreams, their fears. Owen told her about growing up as the youngest son of a poor farmer, about joining the militia to escape a future of working someone else's land. Khaara told him about her childhood in the clan, about learning to hunt and fight, about the day her father left for war and never came home. They talked about the war itself, sharing stories that were painful but necessary. Owen described battles he had fought, friends he had lost. Khaara spoke of the raids on her clan's territory, the hunger and fear that had been constant companions. "I killed a human boy once," she said quietly. He could not have been more than 16. He had a letter from his mother in his pocket. "I found it after, and I could not read the words, but I knew what it was. I have thought about that boy every day since." "I killed an orc woman who was protecting her children," Owen confessed. "I did not see the children at first, only saw an armed orc and shot. Afterward, I found them hiding in a root cellar. 2 little ones, maybe 5 and 7 years old, crying for their mother. We took them to a camp for displaced orcs, but I do not know what happened to them." They held each other, 2 people scarred by the same war from different sides, finding comfort in shared grief and understanding. "We cannot change the past," Khaara said, "but we can build a different future." "Together," Owen said, "together." September came with cooler weather and the changing of the leaves. Owen and Khaara's relationship deepened as the days shortened. They were not just partners now, but lovers in every sense, and the farmstead felt truly like a home for the first time. One morning, as they were working on reinforcing the barn for winter, a group of riders appeared on the road. Owen's hand instinctively went to where his rifle used to hang before he remembered he had traded it away. He had a shotgun in the house, but it would take time to get it. "Stay calm," he murmured to Khaara. "Let me handle this." There were 5 riders, all men Owen recognized from town. The leader was Samuel Gates, who owned the general store. "Owen Lattimer," Gates called out, not dismounting. "We need to talk." "Then talk," Owen said, moving to stand between the riders and Khaara. "The town has decided. You cannot continue living with that orc. It is against decency and nature. We are giving you a choice. Send her away, or you will be cast out of the community completely. No trade, no commerce, no aid of any kind." Owen felt anger burn through him, but he kept his voice level. "You are already refusing to trade with me. What more can you do?" "We can make sure no one ever trades with you," Gates said. "We can spread word to every town and settlement for 100 miles. We can make it impossible for you to survive out here." "Is that a threat?" "It is a promise. Send the orc away, Owen. Last chance." Owen looked at the 5 men on their horses, their faces hard with conviction and prejudice. He looked at their hands, saw that 2 of them had rifles. If this turned violent, he and Khaara would not stand a chance. But he also knew with absolute certainty what his answer had to be. "No," he said simply. Gates' face darkened. "Think carefully, boy." "Your future, my future is with my wife," Owen interrupted. "My future is here on this farm with Khaara, and if you cannot accept that, then I do not need your community or your trade. We will manage on our own." One of the other riders, a young man named Peter Walsh, spoke up. "Maybe we should just burn the place. Teach him a lesson." Owen's hand twitched, But before he could respond, Khaara stepped forward. She had picked up a splitting maul at some point, and she held it with easy competence. "You are welcome to try," she said, her voice calm but carrying a weight of promise. "But I should warn you, I was training as a warrior before the war ended. I have killed men in battle. I would prefer not to do it again, but I will defend my home and my husband." The riders shifted uneasily. An orc woman with a weapon was a very different prospect than an unarmed victim. "This is not over," Gates said, but he was already turning his horse. "You have made your choice, Lattimer. Live with the consequences." They rode away, and Owen felt his knees go weak with relief. Khaara set down the maul and came to his side. "That was dangerous," she said. "I know, but what else could I do? You could have sent me away. Saved yourself." Owen turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I would rather lose everything else than lose you." Khaara's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I love you, Owen Lattimer. I love you too." They went back to work, but the confrontation had shaken them both. That evening, as they sat by the fire, Owen voiced the fear that had been growing in his mind. They might come back. They might actually try to burn us out. "Then we will be ready," Khaara said. "But Owen, we cannot live in fear. We have to trust that we can handle whatever comes." "You are right. We are stronger together than they realize." Over the next few weeks, they prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Owen taught Khaara to shoot with the shotgun. They reinforced the doors and windows. They kept watch and shifts at night just in case, but the attack never came. Instead, something unexpected happened. One morning in early October, a wagon appeared on the road. Owen tensed, hand moving to the shotgun, but then he saw that the wagon was driven by a single figure, not a group of raiders. As it drew closer, he realized the driver was a woman, human, probably in her 50s. She had graying hair pulled back in a practical bun and wore a simple dress and shawl. "Hello," she called out, waving. "I am looking for Owen Lattimer and his wife." Owen and Khaara exchanged glances, then walked out to meet her. "I am Owen Lattimer. This is my wife, Khaara." The woman smiled warmly. "I am Edith Foster. I live about 12 miles west, other side of Willow Creek. I heard about you too from my husband, who heard about it in town." Owen braced himself for more hostility, but Edith's next words surprised him. "I wanted to come meet you myself and say that I think what you are doing is wonderful." "You do," Khaara said, clearly as surprised as Owen. "I do. My own son married an orc woman 2 years ago. They live out near the coast now, and they are very happy. But they had to leave because of the prejudice, and I miss them terribly." She looked at Owen and Khaara with kind eyes. "I heard that you are standing your ground, refusing to let hatred drive you away. I wanted you to know that not everyone feels like the folks in town." "That is very kind of you," Owen said, feeling emotion well up in his throat. "I brought some things," Edith continued, gesturing to the wagon. "Some preserves, some seed for next year's planting, a few books I thought you might enjoy. And I wanted to invite you both to dinner next Sunday if you would like to come. My husband and I would be honored to have you." Khaara's hand found Owen's, squeezing tight. "We would be honored to come." "Wonderful. It is settled then." Edith climbed down from the wagon and helped them unload the supplies, chatting the whole time about farming and weather and her grandchildren. She stayed for lunch, treating Khaara with the same warmth and courtesy she showed Owen, and by the time she left, Owen felt lighter than he had in months. "There are good people in the world," Khaara said, watching the wagon depart. "Yes, we just have to find them." The dinner with Edith and her husband Martin was a revelation. They welcomed Owen and Khaara into their home with genuine warmth, treating them as honored guests. Martin, a former soldier himself, listened with interest to Owen's stories of the militia and shared his own experiences from the war. I killed a lot of orcs, Martin said bluntly. And I regret every one. War makes monsters of us all, human and orc alike. What matters is what we do after. They talked late into the night, and when Owen and Khaara finally left to make the ride home by moonlight, they did so with full bellies, lighter hearts, and the promise of friendship. I was beginning to think we would be alone forever, Khaara said as they rode through the silver-lit forest. We have each other, Owen said. That is all I really need. But friends are nice too. Friends are very nice, Owen agreed with a smile. Winter came early that year, snow falling in late October and continuing through November. Owen and Khaara spent long evenings by the fire, reading the books Edith had given them, playing chess on a board Owen had carved, talking about plans for the next year. I want to expand the chicken coop, Khaara said one evening. If we have more hens, we can sell eggs. To who? No one in town will buy from us. Then we find other buyers. There are settlements along the river, trading posts, other farms. We make our own network. Owen considered this. That could work, and we could grow more vegetables to sell at those trading posts. They planned together, dreaming of a future where their farm was not just self-sufficient but thriving. Where they could build something that would outlast them, something that proved humans and orcs could not only coexist but flourish together. In December, a blizzard struck, dumping 3 feet of snow and trapping them inside for a week. They spent the time maintaining the fire, caring for the animals in the barn, and being together. It was during this enforced isolation that Khaara told Owen she was pregnant. He had been stoking the fire when she spoke, and he froze, poker in hand, certain he had misheard. What did you say? I am pregnant, with child, our child. Owen set down the poker very carefully, then turned to her. She was watching him with a mixture of hope and fear, clearly unsure how he would react. He crossed the room in 3 strides and swept her into his arms, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around. We are having a baby, Khaara laughed, the sound bright and joyous. Yes. We are having a baby. They held each other, crying and laughing at the same time, overwhelmed by the enormity of it. A child. Their child. Half human, half orc. A living symbol of everything they were trying to build. I am terrified, Khaara admitted. I do not know how to be a mother. I do not know how to be a father, Owen said. We will figure it out together. Together, Khaara agreed. The winter passed in a blur of preparation. Owen built a cradle from oak wood, carving it with careful attention. Khaara sewed baby clothes from soft fabric that Edith brought on her monthly visits. They talked endlessly about names, about what kind of parents they wanted to be, about the world they hoped to give their child. Spring came again, and with it the work of planting. Khaara was showing now, her belly round with their child, and Owen worried constantly about her overworking. I am pregnant, not fragile, she told him after he tried to prevent her from lifting a sack of seed. I can still work. I know, I just worry, she softened, touching his cheek. I know. But trust me to know my limits. They planted the fields together, working a bit slower than the previous year but still making good progress. And this time, when Owen went to the trading post to buy additional supplies, the trader greeted him with a nod of respect. Heard you stood up to the whole town, the trader said. That takes courage. Just doing what was right still takes courage. The trader gave him a better price than usual and threw in some extra seed as a wedding gift a year late. Word was spreading, Owen realized. The story of the veteran who married an orc and defied his community was becoming known beyond his little corner of the world. Some people thought he was a fool. Some thought he was brave, but everyone had an opinion. In May, Edith and Martin came to visit and brought with them another couple, James and Yara. Yara was an orc, and she and Khaara embraced like sisters, speaking rapidly in the orc language that Owen could not follow. James was a carpenter, and he offered to help Owen expand the house, adding a proper nursery. "We are building a community," Martin said as they all shared dinner that night. "People who believe in a different way. Humans and orcs living together, working together. You two started something, Owen and Khaara. You gave others hope." Owen looked around the table at these friends, this odd little family they had built, and felt his heart swell. They had not just survived, they were thriving, and they were not alone. Summer came warm and bright, and Khaara's belly grew round and full. She tired more easily now, so Owen took on more of the heavy work, but she still insisted on helping in the garden and with the animals. "I need to stay active," she said. "It is good for the baby." In late July, on a warm evening as the sun was setting, Khaara's labor began. Owen rode hard to fetch Edith, who had experience with childbirth, and Yara, who knew orc birthing customs. They arrived within hours and took charge, sending Owen out of the bedroom with firm instructions. He paced in the main room, listening to Khaara's cries of pain, feeling utterly helpless. This was the worst kind of waiting, knowing the woman he loved was suffering and being unable to do anything about it. The labor lasted through the night and into the next morning. Owen dozed fitfully in a chair, jerking awake at every sound, until finally, just as dawn was breaking, he heard a new sound, a baby's cry. He leaped to his feet as the bedroom door opened and Edith emerged, smiling. "You can come in now, Father." Owen entered the room on shaking legs. Khaara lay in the bed, exhausted but radiant, holding a small bundle wrapped in soft cloth. When she looked up at him, her smile could have lit the whole world. "Come meet your daughter," she said softly. Owen approached, hardly daring to breathe, and Khaara pulled back the cloth to reveal the tiny face of their child. She had skin that was a lighter green than Khaara's, more the color of new leaves. Her ears were pointed but small. She had the tiniest tusks, barely visible. Her eyes, when they fluttered open, were the same blue as Owen's. "She is perfect," Owen whispered, reaching out to touch her impossibly small hand. The baby's fingers wrapped around his thumb, and he felt his heart crack open with a love so fierce it was almost painful. "What should we name her?" Khaara asked. They had debated names for months, unable to decide. But looking at his daughter now, Owen knew exactly what her name should be. "Hope," he said. "We should name her Hope." Khaara's eyes filled with tears. "Hope, yes, that is perfect." They sat together, the three of them, as the sun rose over the farm and a new day began. Owen marveled at the journey that had brought them here. A year ago he had been alone and desperate, trading his only rifle for an uncertain future. Now he had a wife he loved beyond measure and a daughter who represented everything good in the world. The first few weeks with Hope were exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. She was a healthy baby with strong lungs, and she kept them up at all hours. But neither Owen nor Khaara minded. They took turns walking her when she cried, singing to her, marveling at every small change as she grew. Edith and Martin came to visit, bringing gifts for the baby. Yara and James came too, and there was a small celebration, a gathering of their little community to welcome the newest member. "She is beautiful," Yara said, holding Hope with the ease of someone who had children of her own. "And she represents the future, a better future than the one we knew." As summer turned to autumn, Owen and Khaara settled into their new life as parents. They worked the farm with Hope in a sling on Khaara's back, or sleeping in a shaded basket at the field's edge. They taught her about the world even though she was too young to understand, showing her the chickens and the cow, the growing plants, the changing leaves. One evening in September, as they sat on the porch watching Hope sleep in her cradle, a rider appeared on the road. Owen tensed, but relaxed when he recognized the figure. It was the orc trader from the trading post, the one who had arranged their marriage. He dismounted and approached the porch, nodding respectfully. "Owen Lattimer, Khaara, I heard you had a child I wanted to see for myself." "You are welcome," Owen said, gesturing to the cradle. "This is Hope." The trader looked down at the sleeping baby and his weathered face softened. "She is beautiful, and her name is well chosen." "What brings you here?" Khaara asked. "News," the trader said. "Good news, I think. There are others like you, other mixed couples, human and orc, living on the frontier. They have been hearing your story, drawing courage from it. Some are talking about forming a settlement, a place where all are welcome regardless of species." Owen and Khaara exchanged glances. "A settlement?" "Yes. They want to know if you would be interested in joining, or perhaps, if you would prefer, they could settle near here. Build a community around what you have already started." Owen looked at the farm, at the fields he and Khaara had planted and tended, at the house where they had built their life together. He thought about being part of something larger, a real community based on acceptance and hope. "What do you think?" he asked Khaara. She considered carefully. "I think we should hear them out, but this is our home. Whatever we decide, it has to work for us and for Hope." "Agreed," the trader nodded. "I will carry word back. They will send representatives to speak with you." True to his word, a month later 3 couples arrived. 2 were human-orc marriages like Owen and Khaara's. 1 was an orc couple who had been cast out of their clan for refusing to fight. They talked long into the night about their vision for a community where species did not matter, where children like Hope could grow up without prejudice, where the mistakes of the past did not have to define the future. By the end of the evening, a decision had been made. They would establish a settlement nearby, within a day's ride. Families would build homes, clear land, create farms. They would trade with each other and with anyone else willing to deal fairly. They would prove that a different way was possible. Owen and Khaara would keep their own farm, but they would be part of the community, helping to guide and shape it. Over the next year, the settlement grew. First one family arrived, then another, then several at once. A small village took shape, with houses and barns, workshops and gardens. They named it New Haven, and it became a beacon for those seeking escape from prejudice and hatred. Owen and Khaara's farm thrived. They expanded their fields, increased their livestock, became known for their quality produce. And Hope grew, a bright and curious child who was beloved by everyone who met her. On the 2nd anniversary of the day, Owen had traded his rifle for his wife. They threw a celebration. Friends came from New Haven and beyond, filling the farmstead with laughter and music. There was food and dancing, stories and songs. As the sun set and the party continued around them, Owen and Khaara slipped away to their favorite spot, the oak tree at the edge of the northern field. Hope was asleep on Khaara's shoulder, content and peaceful. 2 years, Owen said, putting his arm around his wife. "It feels like a lifetime and also like yesterday." "I know what you mean," Khaara said. "Sometimes I cannot remember what life was like before this, before you. Do you ever regret it, accepting that day at the trading post?" Khaara turned to look at him, her amber eyes reflecting the last of the sunset. "Never, not for a single moment. You gave me a home, a family, a future. You gave me hope." "We gave each other hope," Owen corrected gently. "I was just as lost as you were. Then we found each other at exactly the right time." They stood there together, a family, watching the stars come out over the farm they had built. In the distance, they could hear music and laughter from the party. Closer by, the familiar sounds of their animals settling for the night. And in Khaara's arms, Hope slept peacefully, unaware of the struggles her parents had faced to create this life for her. Owen thought about the journey that had brought them here, the desperate trade at the trading post, the key he had handed over before he even knew Khaara's heart. The hard work of those first months, the opposition they had faced, the love that had grown between them. He thought about his old rifle, long gone now, and realized he did not miss it at all. It had bought him something far more valuable than any weapon. It had bought him a chance at real happiness. "I love you," he told Khaara, kissing her temple. "I love you too," she replied, leaning into him. "Thank you for taking a chance on me." "Thank you for taking a chance on me," Owen countered. Hope stirred in her mother's arms, making a small sound of contentment before settling again. She would grow up in a world that was not perfect, that still had prejudice and hatred and fear. But she would also grow up knowing that love was stronger than all of those things. That two people from different worlds could build a bridge between them. That family was not about blood or species, but about choice and commitment and hope. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities and challenges and joys. There would be more children, Owen hoped, more harvests, more friends joining their community, more proof that a different way was possible. But for now, in this moment, under the stars on their farm, everything was perfect. Owen Lattimer, veteran of the border wars, had traded his only rifle for an orc bride and handed her the key to his house before he even knew her name. It had been the craziest, most reckless thing he had ever done. It had also been the best decision of his life. Years would pass, and the settlement of New Haven would grow into a thriving town. More mixed couples would arrive, and more children would be born. The story of Owen and Khaara would be told and retold, inspiring others to take similar leaps of faith. The world would slowly, painfully, begin to change, but the foundation of it all was this: a desperate farmer and an outcast orc woman who chose to trust each other when no one else would, who built a life together from nothing but hope and hard work, who proved that love could cross any divide. That night, as they walked back to the party hand in hand, hope secure in her mother's arms, Owen looked at his family and his friends and the life they had created, and he knew with absolute certainty that he would make the same choice again in a heartbeat. The rifle was gone, but he had gained the whole world.